in this context, we have come up with a strategic plan which talks, yes, to human resource management and development, but also now addresses other issues of how we can effectively support line ministries, their departments and agencies in order for them, firstly, to understand their mandates as granted by the President and how their mandates can be transformed into very clearly defined functions, which functions ought to be driven through very clearly defined structures, and which structures then require the human resources in order for them to be able to achieve ministerial mandates. And over and above that, we have also identified the need for us to ensure that as and when human resources have been recruited into the civil service, we need to engage with them in order to ensure that they remain sufficiently motivated to perform at high levels of performance, and also perform in a manner that is ethically acceptable, and also to ensure that they adopt a culture of planning for results and ensuring that consistently they appraise their performance in the context of a results-based management system. Beyond motivation, it is also important for us to rethink the way we have been remunerating our employees. And in this context, you will have heard that the Public Service Commission is now putting a lot of emphasis on striking the correct balance between monetary and non-monetary rewards for civil service or public service employees. In this context, a new agency will certainly be established in order for us to better understand and also make this a reality for our employees. Another area that we are focusing on in the context of the new strategic plan is the whole issue of skills development or capacity development for the public service. It's important, yes, to have persons recruited into the civil service, adequately remunerated, but the environment in which we are operating is consistently changing. The skills, the knowledge base that is required to remain relevant in an ever-changing environment necessitates that the Public Service Commission must not only train people when they enter the public service itself, but also provide opportunities for career development as and when they remain within the public service. So we are going to rethink the way our public training institutions throughout the whole country, including the Zimbabwe Institute of Management and Public Administration, are structured in order to come up with a more comprehensive skills development institution that, under the rubric of what we would refer to as the Public Service Academy. That academy will then be in charge of looking after the skills development requirements of our civil servants. We also are thinking of putting in place a very robust system that makes it possible for civil servants to be appropriately remunerated when they are still serving as civil servants, but also when they retire and become pensioners. Our national system of pension management has its own disadvantages, one of which is that as and when liabilities to pay pensions when people have retired have not been very easy to meet. Why? Because we have depended largely on what is called a pay-as-you-go pension system. that system in an environment where the economy might not be working at optimum levels makes it very difficult for government to mobilize the resources that it requires in order for it to meet its pension liabilities. So we are transforming, migrating, if you like, from a pay-as-you-go pension scheme to a funded and guaranteed national public service pension scheme that will include contributions from workers, contributions from government, and those contributions are going to be invested in order to create assets, to create a more sustainable system for the payment of pensions as and when people go on retirement. We have also noticed that there has been tendencies up to now where different institutions have taken on the responsibilities of managing their own salaries and conditions of service. And that in itself has created problems, especially from the perspective of our capacity to effectively manage the national wage bill, because there is no unified or comprehensive infrastructure that is in place to ensure that salaries and conditions of service are standardized across all the sectors of the public service. So as we move forward, there is going to be a system put in place to ensure that there is a holistic, comprehensive, standardized remuneration framework for the Public Service Commission, which has to be managed by some entity, and that entity is likely to be the Public Service Commission. But of course, this does not imply that there is not going to be differentiation across sectors. There will always be difference. Why? Because different sectors deal with different challenges and also require different sets of skills and knowledge. And those have to be recognized in the way that we pay salaries and in the way that we define conditions of service. But the most important thing is that we need a single spine national remuneration framework for the Public Service Commission. But that single spine national remuneration framework will still recognize the peculiarities and particularities of the different sectors. And that recognition is going to be effected through the nature of the allowances that are going to be paid to the different employees in the different sectors. The other area that we would want to move into as the Public Service Commission is the whole area of changing the culture in the public service. The Public Service Commission and its employees, particularly the Secretariat, and employees that are found in line ministries, government departments, and government agencies, do a lot of good work. But there has always been an outcry with regard to issues of certain cultural traits that are of a negative nature, especially in the area of unethical conduct, sloth, bureaucratic inertia, lack of performance management, and in the area of lack of accountability to the ultimate shareholder of the public service, and that shareholder are the citizens of Zimbabwe. So we need to transform the culture that has traditionally characterized the public service into a new culture blueprint that is based on ethical conduct, that is based on high performance, that is based on accountability, that is based on ensuring that our services and everything that we do is responsive to the needs and the desires of our shareholders. That is going to be dealt with in the context of yet another agency that will deal with matters relating to advocacy, communication, culture change, and strategic planning. The other agency that will have to come up is one that speaks to the mainstreaming, the integration of salaries and conditions of service management for independent commissions. That pretty much indicates or summarizes the strategic plan that we have put in place.